Files. And this is Revolution Podcast. Crossover episode with Movie Night Extravaganza. One of the shows that we do here. With friend of show, friend in real life, Forrest Miller, and his co-host extraordinaire, my good friend and sometimes bandmate, constant contributor on This is Revolution, Conan Neutron. And also Erica Strout, who also plays with Conan from time to time, and Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, and host of the Bituation Room, Francesca Fiorentini, also found out Bay native. We actually had a very good Bay Area talk after the show. Francesca's very funny. Conan's got a new album coming out. As you know, Conan and I are both musicians. Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. There's a new record out called Dangerous Nomenclature. It's out right now. Wherever you're listening to this, there are links in the description to the Bandcamp where you can find it. And since everyone wants to boycott Spotify, we're going to boycott Spotify because we don't like Joe Rogan. Conan actually made an interesting point. He goes, was everybody boycotting Viacom and MTV because Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh and all these other vile characters were part of that organization as well, corporation as well? The performative nature of self-aggrandizing protest. I love it. I'm here for it. If you want to hear my take on it, there's a video essay. Kind of talk about it. Quit playing games with my heart is what it's called. YouTube.com/This is Revolution Podcast is where you can see it. And we have a playlist of all our video essays. But this was an interesting discussion about a movie that I have never seen. The Conversation with Gene Hackman, 1974. He plays a wiretapper, professional wiretapper. He's the best wiretapper in the business. Dark film, a Coppola film. But all of the participants got in the weeds of the discussion. I chimed in very little, but did chime in, of course, for comic relief. If you want to see Movie Night Extravaganza and participate in the talk, YouTube.com/This is Revolution Podcast, the first Wednesday of every month. There's also going to be links in the description to Movie Night Extravaganza. It happens every week. They talk all kinds of movies. Every month is a different theme. So don't forget, the new Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends is out. Dangerous Nomenclature. There's links in the description wherever you're listening to this. And I am out.
This is a world of hidden mics and two-way mirrors. A world where nothing is private.
Do you think we can do this?
Later in the week.
Do you think we can do this?
Harry Caul is an expert. The best there is.
Let me tell you something about Harry Caul. The best, bar none. I'll drink to that.
Best what?
The best bugger on the West Coast.
What about me?
He can bug anybody, anytime, anywhere.
Nobody knows how you did it, though, Harry. Caused a hell of a scandal, too.
Where? Did you see him? The man with the hearing aid, like Charles. He's been following us all over.
They're not people to him, just voices.
3 people were murdered, that's all.
He doesn't know them, and they don't know him.
It had nothing to do with me. I mean, I just turned in the tapes. Bless me, Father, for I've sinned. I've been involved in some work that I think will be used to hurt these 2 young people. No way responsible. I'm not responsible.
You're not supposed to feel anything about it. You're just supposed to do it.
Be careful, Harry. You're just supposed to listen. Not look, not feel, not care.
Yes. How'd you get this phone number?
We prepare a full dossier on everyone.
It's terrific. The bugger got bugged, huh?
Do you have secrets, Harry? I know you do. Telling me about yourself? Your secrets?
I don't have any secrets. Don't get involved in this, Mr. Caul. Those tapes are dangerous.
Come on, Harry. Show and tell. How'd you do it?
Why are you asking me these questions?
Gene Hackman is Harry Caul in The Conversation. There is nothing private about The Conversation. Listen.
My name is Harry Caul. Can you hear me?
Well, greetings and welcome to the 6th movie night extravaganza takeover of the This Is Revolution podcast. My name is Forrest Miller, host of Movie Night Extravaganza. Tonight we'll be talking about the 1974 mystery thriller, The Conversation, written, directed, and produced by Francis Ford Coppola. Just 2 years after he directed The Godfather and starring Gene Hackman as Harry Caul. Harry Caul is the best surveillance expert and wiretapper, at least on the West Coast, and a pathologically private and paranoid person who begins to suspect that the couple he's been hired to record are in mortal danger. The film also stars Robert Duvall, John Kazow, Harrison Ford, and Alan Garfield. During the course of shooting, the Watergate story broke and the Nixon hearings began. As the hearings heated up, the Nixon tapes were revealed, and the Watergate hearings began to eerily mirror the plot of The Conversation. 4 days after the release, the House Judiciary Committee officially subpoenaed the first 42 tapes. Now, before I bring on my panelists for the evening, I'd like to remind you all to like and subscribe both to This Is Revolution and my channel, Movie Night Extravaganza. You can also support Movie Night Extravaganza on Patreon, where you get access to all kinds of amazing discussions and interviews. Links are in the description. So without further ado, let's bring out the crew. First off, we have Conan Neutron, my co-host for Movie Night Extravaganza, frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, and and host of Platonic Reversal. You're muted.
Everybody can't hear you over the cheering, but yes, absolutely. Happy to be here as always. Love The Conversation. This is a fantastic film. Very, very excited about talking about this. I am pumped.
All right, next we have Erica Strout, a Georgia-based filmmaker, music video director, and musician. She's half the musical duo Dream Tent, plays guitar and sings in Motherfucker and the live band of Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, and is like, at this point, kind of the fourth Movie Night Extravaganza, co-collaborator.
Thank you, Forrest. Nice to see you again. Hello.
Yeah. And finally, we have Francesca Fiorentini, the host of the Bituation Room and a journalist and comedian who is a frequent contributor on TYT.
Hi.
I'm glad that cheering.
Man, this is great.
That cheering kind of covered up the wiretaps that I left in all of your.
Exactly.
All of your
Oh, damn. It's going to be that kind of a night. We've got a laugh track here.
It was all a dream.
So
dangerous stuff here.
I definitely want to get first impressions of this movie. I guess starting with Francesca, have you seen it before? Is this a movie you enjoyed? You know, anything you want to bring up right off the bat?
Thank you. Oh my gosh, thanks for making me big. I had not seen this movie before. My brother studied film and he could not speak enough about it. So constantly like the conversation is like like the sound editing is really like there was a lot of like, you know, there's a lot of film nerding out about this movie, and I don't think I ever got past that very, very long opening scene before, and I was just like, ugh, I'm bored, I can't. But I did sit down and watch the whole thing, and it was well worth it. I'm gonna be totally 100 with you. Bit of a fizzled ending there. There was a little like I definitely like thank you, right? The audience, you guys know what I'm talking about. Anyone over COVID? Oh my god.
If I see one more mask, I swear to God.
Yeah. So yeah, I think
it.
It was great. It was excellent. It was so well done. The ending, I was like, ooh, didn't stick the landing for me, but yeah, exactly.
I'm going to stop now. I just wanted to.
Thank you. Everybody's here.
Yeah, I enjoyed the ending. I don't know which part of the ending didn't you enjoy? Because I think that the twist, which, you know, if you haven't seen it, you should probably turn this off. Go see, because we're definitely going to spoil it.
Spoiler alert for a movie made in 1974.
Yeah,
but yeah, we are going to spoil.
But I enjoyed that twist.
Good thing Andy's not listening.
The twist landed pretty hard for me, and then the last scene, I guess, yeah, it kind of dragged on. But I think it was poignant. I don't necessarily think that it. I'm not going to say it didn't stick the landing for me, but I do see why. Yeah. There's
a thing that somebody once said to me talking about this movie that made me think about the ending differently, which I quite like. Should I just say it? I guess I'm all big now, so I should probably just say it, right? Which is that, like, so he's trying to figure out where the bug is at the end of it. He rips the entire house apart, the floorboards, and there's always like sort of implied, oh, well, it's in the saxophone, right? But then someone else like, or there isn't a bug at all, and I was like,
oh, see, I read it as it could be either or. You know, like watching, because I watched it like 3 times in the last since Saturday night or Sunday night. Each time I was like, I just don't think that there's a bug at all, and I think that even if there was, like, I think they're doing the "I'm watching you" thing, like, you know, like oh, we'll be watching you to make sure that he doesn't talk. But one thing that I think is both ironic, I guess, like ironic and funny, but also like kind of. Every time he feels like he's getting watched, he gets stupid and he gets sloppy, like throughout the movie. Like both when he is like talking to that woman Meredith, and they're able to just slip Bernie's able to just slip the pen in his pocket and like record him.
Which was like future stuff. Yeah. That was like future stuff back then, to be clear. Like that was not like, you know, outside of like James Bond movies, that was not a thing that like was. You couldn't just go down to American Science and Surplus and pick one up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, so I want to talk about that when we do our post-game thing, because I actually have a clip of Johnny Carson and Gene Hackman talking about all of the different gear that they've seen like sold in like catalogs and stuff, because people around the time of this movie got really fucking paranoid about the fact that anybody could be listening, because for the first time, they found out that like, oh, well, even in the White House, Nixon had a little thing. And it turns out so did LBJ, so did Kennedy, so did Truman, like, so did FDR. Like, they were all wiretapping everybody that they talked to. But for the first time, they understood that Nixon did. And like right around the time this movie came out. But Erica, thoughts about this going into it? Have you seen it before? You have, right?
No, I actually hadn't seen it before. I admittedly don't haven't gotten as deep into Coppola's filmography as I would like to be able to say that I have, but I was really I was excited to watch it and to talk about it with y'all. I thought it was really good. Like, I really enjoyed it. It made me really, like, I loved the twist part. I did. I think I agree with Francesca a little bit about the ending, because I was a little bit like, oh, is like what's happening next? And then it was kind of like, oh, that's it. It kind of felt like it was just, okay, now it's done. Where there could have been a little more, or I don't know, but I think I can appreciate what they were getting at with it.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really thought about it. I liked your point, Forrest, about how, like, showing when he, like, kind of starts to lose his grip on things. Yeah. So, but yeah, thumbs up. I was glad to have watched it finally.
It's so clear, yeah, that, like, for that time, the sound design and quality, which I think it's what's his first name? Murch. I know his daughter, actually.
Walter Murch.
Walter Murch is a
Nice.
genius. He's a goddamn genius. And, like, this film, if it were made today, it would have been outstanding, right? Like, the sound design is so captivating. The music is captivating. I'm sure it won awards for that. Gene Hackman is so perfectly understated and so like a stoic man that's also falling apart, but, like, in no way over the top or, like, overacted. And you're with him. You're like, this is a sensible man. It's a little bit of, like, a Dangerous Mind. It's like Dangerous Minds when Michelle Pfeiffer
turns the chair backwards.
I say it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Most movies are like Dangerous Minds. And if you think about it,
That's my skill of I rate them, actually. Are they
good?
this
Yeah.
much
Because
more, or
Dangerous
like,
Minds, best film ever. Yeah, no, just a beautiful mind where you're like, this guy makes sense. I'm on his side. He's the protagonist, and then they flip it on you, and, like, he is not doing well. This is bad. And beautiful, just the way they play. I think one of my favorite scenes is when he's divulging to his girlfriend or whoever the hell it is, because we're not even really clear on their relationship. And they're kind of in that, his empty part of his warehouse. And you just, like, the way that the sound moves, but the camera just stays in the same place towards the end there, when, like, the guys come in and they're on the little Vespa and they're, like, sort of, like, it's just, I don't know. It's just like this, it's just a really warm, beautiful sounding film that also is scary as shit.
Yeah. And the term sound design was actually invented by Walter Murch for this film. That was not a term that existed before that. Yeah. And I mean, I don't feel great about this, because the whole thing is they wanted to get around the editors union, because, you know, they didn't have a lot of money to spend, which if you
spilling the tea,
canceled.
If you like the auteur period of filmmaking, right, where it's like one director that's writing, directing, producing, and it's something that really comes out of his head, and it's like these, you know, vast character studies. This thing that Coppola does so well. The way that he shot them a lot of times, I mean, like, all of Apocalypse Now is kind of him getting around he shot it in the Philippines so he'd get around the unions, and, like, it's definitely not good at all. But the term sound design came because Walter Murch was not in the editors union. So the editors union, he said, all right, well, you can have non-union people working on your film, but you can't call them editors. So he asked, like, what did you? So he's like, so what's the title for what you want for your, for both this and the movie he did before that too, not The Godfather, but, like, the one before that. And he's like, well, I guess it's just sound design. So that ended up being the title.
Wow.
And now they use that as a regular thing for that role. And the other thing that I learned is that the guy that did the music, David, he's David Shire was Coppola's brother-in-law.
Yeah,
which is an interesting fact.
Any relation to Talia Shire?
Actually, yeah, I think so, if I remember correctly. We'll get our fact checkers on that. But can I also bring up the fact that Gene Hackman learned to play the saxophone for this
I was wondering about that. Damn.
Like, that's some Daniel Day-Lewis level of commitment to the bit, right?
And he could have faked it. He could have faked it because there was
it.
always music going on when he was playing his saxophone.
But he wanted to like, he thought that was authentic to the character, who just, by the way, exudes loneliness.
Yeah,
like exudes it in a way that I actually like Gene Hackman quite a bit, and I like a lot of his roles. Like, I think he's generally at least consistent, if not very good. And God damn, every time I see this movie, I'm like, because he wasn't that guy. He wasn't like the nebbishy, like very lonely, I guess we would call.
No, he was cool as shit at the time.
He was the cool guy at the time.
Mustache and like his.
You mean Gene Hackman, the actor?
Yeah, the actual actor.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but as the character, he's so perfect in this because you believe it. You believe every scene is in that. Hey, this is a guy that is so good at the thing that he does, and like is generally terrible at almost everything else, including human connection.
But the saxophone is the loneliest instrument. So.
Right. If NPR has taught us anything,
I thought it was the trombone. It was the. I mean, hit it.
Maybe you're right.
Thank you. Clearly the saddest. The loneliest.
That is true. During Apocalypse Now, he used the Philippine Army's helicopters, which they were in the middle of fighting a civil war within the Philippines, and they would take the helicopters back and be like, "We need this right now. We're gonna go shoot fucking left-wing protesters / rebels in the fucking like
holy shit,
all to avoid union, huh?"
Yeah.
Oh wow. Interesting.
You know what? People today don't do that type of shit to avoid a union.
Hollywood is perfect now.
Like,
everyone gets paid fairly.
Doesn't get abused for their time at all.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's aces across the sky.
Now they just kind of tell the union to fuck off, like Brian Cox and Session. They're like, fuck off, and then the union goes away. But back then you actually had to go to, the unions were powerful enough. You had to like go across the the Pacific in order to avoid them.
Mm-hmm. The good old days. See, the thing is, we'll get better once we have stronger unions, we'll have better film because you'll have more people trying to evade unions, and we'll get more Coppolas. Think about it.
They're gonna have to really want it. They're gonna have to want it so bad that they'll work that extra hard at it. It's really
I think here's the craziest scene to me that like turned everything. A number of scenes turned things, but for his character, I was like, yeah, this is a lonely guy. He's by himself. He's good at what he does, but that's it. But then when he goes to the expo, and you clearly realize that not only is he a celebrity in this like wiretapping community or whatever the hell, but that he also has like a lot of friends who love him and like want to talk only about him, and Harry this and Harry that, and they're like grabbing drinks and they're fucking cool. And
they're also trying to steal his ideas, like while
they're trying to get some shine, but he is actually surrounded by people. But he feels lonely as hell because he's also racked by his own consciousness for what his job has, ended with, like what happened.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole like.
And what happened involved a union, by the way.
Also, ironically, they're just using it's like union stolen glory over here. Fucking tell this story.
But the phrase I think of when I think of that very accurately descripted is like being alone in a crowded room.
Yeah,
right? That's what his character is. Like he's always alone, even when he's like in a crowd of people that, whether they want to like steal his magics or give genuine praise or a little bit of both, column A, column B, doesn't matter. Like he's just as awkward and alone in his people, amongst his people.
People who like love him, they're like fawning over him.
This is us after a show, right? Like where it's like ideally where people are like hopefully into what you're doing, and he's uncomfortable just as much there as with anywhere else, which says so much about him as a character.
And his attempts to kind of his attempts to go outside of himself, right? His attempts to be somebody else, like these moments where there is kind of a humanistic core that shouldn't be there, right? Like the loneliness, like for what he's doing, he shouldn't actually feel the loneliness. Like he shouldn't actually feel the guilt. Like in order to be a good, as Nixon called it, far right exuberant, in order to be good at that, you have to kind of be devoid of all of that. You have to just have that delusional paranoia that's like, you've been giving yourself fucking speed for 20 years and everyone's out to get you and you're like shaking and like, you know what I mean? Like you have to have like that level of just humanity shredded away from you. And he doesn't. And he's like the best at what he does, sure, but he really isn't, because every attempt to go outside of that comfort zone, you know, you realize that he's clumsy at it. He's awkward. It's painful to watch, which is like a very interesting part of it, because it's like, you know, he has his foot in both worlds, I guess. Like he has his foot in, like, you know, being a human being with emotions and ideas, and also and also at the same time, though, like, is the best at doing this thing, which requires you to have no conscience and requires you to kind of be completely objective about things.
Disassociative, even. Right?
Yeah.
Like the whole point is like
compartmentalizing.
Exactly. When he's talking to the guy, hey, we should team up. We should do the thing. What, like the guy that's, you know, we should go on tour together. Yeah, okay, sure, whatever, dude. Like that guy, like he's talking about how like it's just a job. It's just a job. Like what's on it doesn't matter. It's just a job. Like, and he's able to do that, which, or he thinks he is anyway.
You know how many Harry Cauls there are in the year 2022? Like, holy shit, there are so many people who are getting well paid by many different tech companies to spy on us and are like, it's a job, it's a good job. I'm not going to, you know, I'm not killing anyone, maybe, but maybe I will eventually. I'm not toppling, you know, democratically elected governments, but maybe I am. Like, I actually know somebody who works at Facebook who is sort of reminds me of Harry Caul. He's not a close friend, but he...
Well, could he be if he reminds you of Harry Caul? Could he be a close friend?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, like, I know nothing about him exactly, but we fuck occasionally, and no. So he
pays your rent,
and he pays my rent. It's very scary, but no. So, but he's also like insanely obsessive about privacy, and I think some of the people who are the most involved in surveillance work are also the most obsessive about their own privacy, because they know they've seen it from the inside.
But I also think you can't really, I mean, you know, you can't really be as obsessive about your privacy now as
we gave
as
that up.
Harry Caul was. Yeah, like
we gave that up with the Patriot Act. It was that genie is way out of the bottle, and it's fucking
the only people that really can be are people with like government, enough ties to the government to like have a fake social security number and you know what I mean? Like nothing attached to them, have a name, I guess, that they like. I don't know.
I said not on the air. Come on, dude.
Well, like, you know, because he's like, oh, like the landlord has the extra key, and he's upset the landlord has the extra key and knows when his birthday is. And like at this point, you have to give a landlord your fucking social security number. Like there's no ability to like there's no ability to be like, hey, I just want this key and I want you to not have the other one. Like.
Yeah, they'd be like, well, what do you got to hide?
Jay Hutch says, we got obsessed about our privacy here after getting one too many Harry Cauls, if you know what I mean. But
that's the problem with having comedians on. Everyone thinks they're funny.
Right.
But Jason, can you play the first clip that's the one that about shooting the actual film in the, because this is interesting. They use the actual equipment.
Number 2. That's okay.
Yeah.
It was the kind of thing where it wasn't even that it doesn't work.
Oh no, I think it might be number 3.
So terrific that I didn't want to leave.
Okay, make the jokes.
Yeah, it'd be really easy for me because I got it covered 3 ways. I could.
That one's Coppola directing Gene Hackman, but
oh nice.
Yeah, but
Which is the thing that happened in tonight's film, The Conversation.
No, it's cool. It's cool. They're both like talking to the camera about stuff.
Wish we could see it. Anyway,
it's the one that
there was the germ of a story or a premise that was implanted in my mind out of a conversation with the wonderful director Irvin Kershner, who was walking with me and some friends and was talking about new technology, how now there were shotgun microphones that could be focused in almost with sights like a gun on the mouths of people very, very far away and could pick up what they were saying. And immediately I thought, wow, what if there was a conversation and it was being focused on with that special microphone, and then occasionally, say, someone walked in front of those people, so for a second you couldn't hear what they were saying, or there were gaps. How curious if that conversation had some mystery implicit in it, not unlike the photo taken by accident in Blow Up. And I began to think of this as a possible premise for a story. And it's with this concept and the thrilling idea that I could even shoot it the way the story implied, which is to say, have the two actors walk through the crowd and talk and actually try to use our long lenses and our powerful microphones to try to pick up the conversation. So we went to Union Square in San Francisco and we chose some sites where we could have cameras up high in windows or on roofs, and we actually did the opening much in the technology that would have been used to tap the two young people.
Yeah. So I think that's really interesting that they actually went to Union Square and tried to actually...
And it's so clearly Union Square. And that's what's so funny is as much as I love this movie, I had somehow forgotten that it was filmed in San Francisco. And I feel like as a Bay Area person, ultimately, like everyone knows it's like, okay, well, you got your Vertigo and you got like, you know, like you can go down the list and list all the movies that are like Bay Area movies. And it's so clearly Union Square. I'm like, how did I forget this?
Well,
and I think one of the reasons I liked everything else so much, you know?
In the beginning, I was like, where the fuck is it? Because it was so bird's eye. And it actually reminded me of Argentina. I used to live in Buenos Aires, and I was like, that looks like the Plaza de Mayo. And then now I realized, oh, Union Square looks a lot like Plaza de Mayo. Anyway, I also, they filmed around the Punchline, San Francisco Punchline, and I'm a comic, and I performed there. And I could smell the piss that's in the stairwell.
Are you a Bay
I'm
native?
gonna say it. I was gonna bring it up.
Are you a Bay native, Francesca?
I am a Bay native. Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. So in the Embarcadero Center,
like home.
it's weed and piss, man. We love it.
But in the 70s, it was probably worse too. Like a worse piss smell because
the piss was better, but the weed was worse, actually.
Exactly. The good smelling weed didn't cover it up. But the Embarcadero Center, the way they use that as the office and like the waiting room, which there are some office buildings, but it's mostly outside, but they made it look like it was indoors. Like it was some, I don't know. Did you guys the building was really eerie, correct? Like
it was meant to evoke that kind of eeriness.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use the opportunity to give a shout out to a very young Harrison Ford in this film.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which he
weird looking.
I guess he was written. He was written very
He's weird looking. That was not Lindsay's reaction, but yeah.
Just a little bit.
He was using.
He's still cute.
He was written extremely bare bones and generically, I guess, by Coppola.
It's supposed to be a smaller role, wasn't it? Wasn't he supposed to be a much smaller role?
Yeah. So Harrison Ford arrived on set and started being like, all right, so what's this guy's deal? Started actually picking out costumes and picking out props, invented the thing like, oh, Sarah made these cookies. Do you want some? So he created this whole character that Coppola didn't even write. And Coppola was like, oh shit, we have to use as much Harrison Ford as possible. He also had worked on American Graffiti and, Harrison Ford is in that. And
filmed in Modesto, California, where I was born.
Oh.
So his role really expanded. It's definitely really good, and it's very creepy because there's that
you can kind of read into. Oh,
yeah.
sorry, of course. But I was gonna say you can kind of read into what kind of duty is by what isn't said, right? And that's what's so funny. It being like a movie about conversations. It's the titular line, folks, and people talking to each other. That he doesn't really say that much, but it's ominous in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is Coppola a Bay native?
He's a North Bay dude.
Marin, yeah.
He's got a winery, and you know it's pretty good. It's all right. I think he sold it off though. Oh yeah. Too bad Coppola sold off his wineries to the highest bidder instead of going worker co-op. Again. Right.
Well, he hates unions. He hates
apparently,
Actually, apparently Walter Murch had a bigger hand in this than Coppola did. Like he had a huge part to play. I was reading that Coppola was busy with Godfather 2.
Yeah, Godfather 2 started getting filmed at the same time.
Yeah.
Came out the same year, which is insane.
Yeah.
Jay Hutch. Indiana Jones was also originally a background character in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
We see you, Jay Hutch.
This show's great, by the way.
Yeah, wow.
Jay Hutch is angling to come on to the next This is Revolution. No, but another actor that's in both Godfathers, John Kazow.
Who only was in movies nominated for Academy Awards. He was only in 5 movies or something, but all of them were
he died very, very young.
He died
in the Library of Congress too.
Yes. He's the most Oscar nominated person per movie ever or something. And they made a movie about him, I think called like It Was You or something, because of course he's Fredo, right?
The most nominations per movie that he's been in.
You can't say Fredo unless you're Italian.
Yeah, Fredo.
Oh no, is it Beetlejuice rules? Is he going to appear?
No, there's I don't know if you remember this. There was the Chris Cuomo video where
I remember it.
Yeah, I confronted him on the stairs and called him Fredo, and he's like, "That's our N-word. That's our N-word. You can't use
that." I was trying to forget, but I do remember it. Yes.
But yeah, so he died super young. He died a few years after this. I didn't know that he was married to Meryl, or not married, but like with Meryl Streep for the last 2 years of his life. And
oh shit,
that's a
I didn't know that either.
So they started being together like a year before he got diagnosed with lung cancer. And they're like, no, the lung cancer is like ravaging your body. Like, you're not going to make it through this. She spent every day in the hospital with him as he like passed away for a year.
Wow. Was he young too? Like, I mean,
That's
he wasn't
rough.
even like he wasn't that old of a dude. I don't think.
Was he a smoker? Anyone know?
Yeah, no, he was like an insane chain smoker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not that that's the only way you get lung cancer, but you know, we all know that.
John Cazale.
Doesn't help.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't help. He died at 42. Damn, dog.
Oh, young. Fuck.
Too young.
Woo.
But so Meryl Streep spent every day with him in the hospital, got back to her apartment after going away for a little bit because she was like so distraught by it, was evicted from her apartment. And this guy that was a sculptor that was friends with her like brother-in-law or something, or her brother, like ended up saying like, hey, like you can keep yourself in my apartment, and then said you can stay at my apartment. She fell in love with that guy in letters while he was away, and has been married to the guy that like just was like, hey, you can just keep yourself in my apartment and move here. She's married to him for 40 or 50 years.
Wow.
That's
awesome.
I just looked up her husband the other day because I was watching her daughter on, Gilded Age, which is on HBO Max, and I'm very excited because I'm a Downton bitch. And so I figured I'd like Gilded Age. Anyway, so basically the rebound love is very strong. Like that creeping on funerals to get with a widow or widower.
Sounds like a movie vehicle. Let's write it.
I don't even think that that's what he was trying to do, though. Like, that's the interesting part. Like, it seems like he was I don't know. Who knows?
You're a famous movie star. Sure, you can keep your stuff in my place. She was like, well, now he's like, look, back pay on this, if it were a storage unit, is a lot. What do you say we just get married?
Does the Beetlejuice thing. He's like, look, this is a win-win for both of us. You know, like I get out of here, you get to keep yourself in my apartment. Like,
yeah.
Can we need a green card or something too?
Look. I think we're bearing the lead. There's a landlord out there who evicted Meryl Streep.
Yeah, right.
Madness.
Like, can we think about that?
Stronger.
Well, did she not pay her rent?
More likely. I mean,
ooh, that's a neoliberal voice of God.
But here's the thing. Do you think this guy? Let's assume it's a guy. It's probably a guy. Do you think this guy dines out on that story? Oh, Meryl Streep. Well, the thing is, I evicted her. She wasn't that good at paying the rent. Pretty good at acting.
Oh,
though.
Meryl Streep won an Oscar.
Some people are assholes like that, where somebody would get off on that. Yeah,
that's like the pickup artistry plus landlordism. It's like nagging, right? Like you just got to evict these bitches, you know?
Imagine a landlord convention. In this, there's like a surveillance convention, which I think is a really funny bit to have a surveillance convention. But not like a landlord convention where it's like an entire flock of landlords that are like, evict them quickly, evict them fast. With our new Eviction 3000 system, they won't even want to stay in your apartment. Yeah.
Damn.
Eviction 3000, folks. That's why people tune in. There we go. Come in this call.
I mean,
the guy Victor 3000
is going to talk some shit. Let's just be real. Like I would talk shit if I evicted Meryl Streep. That's a hell of a line to scare your kids with.
Was she in the JD Vance movie? Right?
No, that was
Glenn Close. Glenn Close.
Yeah.
I won't watch it. I don't want to watch it. But
I did see it. I did see it before I knew who JD Vance was, and it's bad. is so bad.
Shocking.
It's the only movie I didn't. It's the only Oscar I can't believe it was Oscar nominated. Only Oscar nominated movie because I watched pretty much all of them that I could. Besides, I didn't watch the really good one. The one about the drummer that you guys were talking about on the
Sound of Metal, like the best movie that came out last year.
Yep.
But I was in tears at the Sound of Metal, and Conan hella knows why.
Goddamn right.
That shit was way too close to home.
It's a fucking horror movie if you play
Great
music.
movie.
Yeah.
We're getting dragged for not talking about the actual film. Look, guys, this is your show.
Let's
You
bring
do
it back
whatever you
around.
want.
The idea of
last Tuesday I was making pasta and it was.
Excuse us.
The idea of a
It's called the conversation. We didn't talk about the movie. We're just having a conversation here.
By the way, when I looked at the conversation, there's so many podcasts called The Conversation that are like, this is The Conversation. One of them had Hillary Clinton, and I was like, oh, that's the same movie. That's the same movie. Except she doesn't have the conscience part. She's just like two people are about to get killed, and she's like, yeah, we came, we saw, they died. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
That sounds like a hack comedy bit. So it's a conversation, but instead of Gene Hackman, it's Hillary Clinton. And I think it goes a little something like this.
Joe Rogan, have me on. No, but like I think the idea of like what I kind of call it like the far right exuberant convention, right? Like it's like all of the kind of Nixonian people that are like number one, that are extremely prone to bragging. Like the thing that brought a lot of these people down is that they're extremely fucking prone to bragging about like their role and stuff, like, talking to their family about it. Like they really can't stop talking. They like get drunk. They're like kind of the people that Nixon would kind of push away and be like, this is someone that we can kind of send to jail. Like they're not going to talk. It's like some right-wing Cuban or something. Like, don't fucking worry about it. And it's an entire convention of those people in this movie.
Just lamping, hanging out.
Yeah. But it's like, it's funny that, they have like the different devices, right? That are like definitely like kind of sold to like rubes that aren't necessarily great at this. Like, the one guy, it's like a really funny, it's like a really funny bit that the one guy accuses, Bernie, Bernie Marin or
Bernie Carrick? Oh, wait, no, it's what?
No, but like the Bernie Moran, he accuses Bernie Moran of stealing his idea, right? And that kind of sets it up so that later on when he's looking around the entire warehouse, you're like, oh shit, he's trying to steal Harry Caul's ideas for these machines, like, because you don't trust him. But at the same time, then they set it up so that he accuses that guy of stealing his idea for a machine. So it's like kind of almost like this Edison Tesla thing that they have going on with like building these inventions that they're kind of just selling to rubes. And you could tell they're just kind of selling them to rubes because, Harry Caul's walking around being like, this is a piece of junk. And he's kind of the purist. Like he builds his own recording equipment, and it's like top quality recording equipment. He's not trying to sell it to other people. Right. And then you have like kind of these hacks that are like, listen, I've been bugging people for years. I bugged the president. I bugged this person. I can start elections. Harry Caul is not really doing that. But he gets goaded by Bernie Moran into doing that when they're in the after party, where he comes up and he's like, you should have been there. And he like gets into this manic state. And I find that entire interaction fascinating.
Yeah. He's not really in it for again, it's a little bit like these feel like early tech bros is what it is. And there are engineers who are in it for like the love of the actual where the love of the construction of the application or the coding or whatever the fuck it is. And like that seems to be the Harry Caul character. Like, I don't want to be political, I don't want to get involved in anything. I'm just in it to like, because I'm fascinated by, sound design. No, I'm fascinated by, creating my own sort of equipment to listen in on conversations. And so you can see the way he very meticulously he's not like salaciously interested in what people are saying or anything like that. He likes his machinery and his equipment, and that's clearly burned him. Like he is haunted and traumatized for where that has led him. And you see everybody else is like, they're just fanboys really of surveillance and doing it for so it's what's up?
And
I said big fan.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have read Edward Snowden's when he wrote a couple years ago, he wrote that biography and kind of explained why he did what he did. And it seemed like he was a lot like that. He felt like, You know, he was in this military family that literally, I guess his family had like participated in the Revolutionary War. Like, you know, like that's how far back they went. His family was kind of this stock kind of government bureaucratic thing where he was like, I'm not political. I have no politics. I could just join the NSA and spy on people. And obviously he ends up having a moment of conscience, and, you know, everybody knows how that ends. You know, he gives Glenn Greenwald, wrong choice, dude, but he gives Glenn Greenwald all of his, you know, the information that he gets from the NSA.
Sad
but like
trombone.
But the way that
that's a sad trombone for sure. Gamork.substack.com, everybody. Gamork.substack.com.
But the way that he kind of explains himself and kind of why he originally was in the NSA is he felt like, well, I'm kind of this, you know, contractor that's just looking for a government job. I don't really feel like it's you know, I have any passion about, you know, one way or the other, but I do feel like I want to be part of this government, you know, surveillance apparatus. I'm interested in it. It's cool. Like I've gone to all these conventions. I have all these magazines. He ended up, his original thing is that he was coding, and like he figured out how to hack through the FBI's, like at a really, really young age, he figured out how to like hack through the FBI's thing. He was just kind of like this nerdy kid. And it's fascinating. That's kind of what the Harry Caul model is. But instead of going into, you know, private business, he went into like specifically government business. But then, you know, when they're in the warehouse, you find out that Harry Caul originally worked for the Attorney General, and you can assume that like that was probably like Robert Kennedy or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's what it was meant to be, but it was like that kind of thing where it's like, I mean, you know, so it's interesting, I think, to kind of get the layers, because this is kind of the story of a person and like how a person gets to be like this, and what happens when a person tries to like break away from that because they feel guilty or whatever, because we are humans in the end. The thing about all the people that did this for Nixon, and the thing about all the people that did this in Watergate and, you know, the Castro assassinations and stuff, a lot of them on their deathbeds, unburdened, like to family or to somebody else, like, you know, to a journalist they trusted or something, like they unburdened themselves completely. And they were like, I've done these things and I've had people killed. I've broken these laws. Like, I really need to talk about it with somebody. But he's having it kind of in real time, not in a situation where he's dying. He's having it in real time, really feeling this guilt and like need to unburden it, to the point where it's kind of pouring out of his dreams. And that dream sequence, I think, is insane.
Yes.
Well, and the one time he actually says out loud, like, what he does, he actually kind of claims to be a musician and not like a sound engineering expert. Like when he's with Terry Garr.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What's her name? Amy?
I forget, but yeah, that sounds right.
Which at first I was confused as to why he was telling her that he was a musician and wouldn't answer like any personal questions whatsoever with her, which is somebody that he like pays her rent and like they have this whole developed relationship, but then they really don't. But then like he goes to this convention and everybody knows what he does, and it didn't really occur to me that it was a surprise to him as well that people knew him.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems to be.
A while to process that.
It seems to be when he finds out that he's, you know, speaking at the convention or whatever, or like has this high position, and they're like advertising, "Oh, Harry Caul is going to be here," and it seems like he's kind of surprised by that, and he's like, "Yeah, well, I was thinking about it." But like at first, you feel like it's kind of like he's pushing aside this fucking assistant, being like, "Yeah, Stan. I mean, like, I'm sure I'll be there, whatever." And then, I don't know, but like to just kind of have that though as a thing that people know about you, right? Like. Or like that makes the paper or something, and everyone's like, "Oh no, this is this guy. Like this guy's a legend. Like this guy's a legend in the field. How did you do that?" And like that scene is super uncomfortable. Where he's like, "How'd you do that? How'd you do that, Harry? 3 people got murdered. How'd you do that?" And he's just needling him, and like, and you can tell he's rattled. And throughout the movie, you're more and more he gets rattled, and it's like it's almost like this person who's a non-feeling or not supposed to be feeling, non-thinking. Just recording entity, right? Like almost like the recording equipment is an extension of himself.
Like that's what he's striving for. Yeah.
Kind of has this like this moment of guilt and pain that's like pouring like through him. Is like kind of it's insane. Kind of like it like you start to feel like super uncomfortable for him, and you watch the emotion pour out of him, and like the human like spirit pour out of him throughout this movie, and it's like, oh shit.
But especially because he was recorded in straight up his most vulnerable moment in the entire film. The entire film. And then it's like, what would you do? And am I dumb? Did I not understand who he was talking about? I assume this is a previous relationship. Or if it's her, what would you do if, like, would you still love somebody who never told you anything about him, who you didn't know when you were going to see him again? Like that kind of thing. What else does he say? And it takes him so long to get it out. And it's just like, would you still love that? What would you do?
He's talking about the girl.
I think he's talking about Amy.
Can you explain the scene that you're talking about, Francesca, the vulnerable moment?
Clearly I'm doing a bad job of it, but no, he's they're at the party. They're at the party after the expo. You realize he's got a bunch of friends and they're going to where his like workshop or whatever, his office, and they're in the like the like Hollowy parking garage area of it. And he's with his Amy, who he's not that close to. Right, and they're having an intimate moment.
It's a different.
No, he wasn't.
That's Anne.
It's a different woman. That's what I thought. I was like, is this bitch different? Because I couldn't figure it out. I was like, who?
They all look alike.
They did though.
Yeah. Terry Garr's character was Amy. And
Francesca's every grandmama right now. Is this bitch different?
Yeah, like why did she?
I think her name was Meredith.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her name,
thank you.
So her name's Meredith. I guess
that's
what you're
why. So I'm the worst person to
yeah.
explain this scene. That's why I can't. Erica, you go.
Erica, would you like to explain this scene?
Thank you.
Okay.
You're on this show, aren't you? Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Take it away.
Looks like I'm here. Yeah, so after the expo, he invites folks back to his workspace, and it's like, he's got like the workspace, but then he has like this big open area too. And so while those folks are riding around, he and this one lady who seems like maybe she was like friends with them, but then it turns out later on that maybe she was like a hired sex worker or something.
What you're supposed to realize, and I didn't realize this until I listened to the DVD commentary today. So
cheater.
It's supposed to be that she's one of the people that was working with Bernie Moran at his place. So what happened? So I think basically what you're supposed to assume is that Bernie somehow gets contracted by the director's assistant to bug him and then steal his tapes.
To get close to him and
to seduce him and steal his tapes. And while that's happening, assumably it's contracted through Bernie Moran. So they called Bernie Moran and said, "Hey, can you bug Harry Caul?" Which is kind of a fascinating thing. Or can you steal Harry Caul? Like, so
it's like the inception of surveillance, really.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. The people he was working for, the people he got the tapes for, planted Bernie and Homegirl
Meredith
together.
Yeah.
Meredith, got it.
Elizabeth McRae's character, yeah.
So
and you can assume maybe that's why Harrison Ford was there at the convention. And you can also, one of the reasons he was there at the convention, and you can also maybe assume that that's where they actually got the bug in. When they're like, "Oh, we're listening to you," because they know that he's kind of going out of his mind. Like maybe something was planted in that scene. So when he destroys his apartment, it's kind of funny that he destroys his.
And he opens up to her too, right?
That's what I'm. Thank you. Yes, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Was attempting to explain.
So then, it's like he and this lady Meredith are having a moment. They were dancing, and then she starts like asking him questions and talking with him, and then he, I guess, feels comfortable enough to open up with her. But it sounds like he's talking about Amy when he's saying like, how would you feel if you had a relationship with a guy and he loved you, but he couldn't tell you anything about himself. He couldn't open up, and
he also tries to call.
If he came back, would you still love him? And then she's like, "Well, how would I know that he loved me?"
Yeah,
and he doesn't really have an answer to that. Except he says, "No, you wouldn't know, really." But
he shares secrets from his childhood.
That kind of shuts him down at that point.
Right, yeah. Like he's like shares secrets from his childhood and things like that. Like it's so clearly to me, like as you said, like a proxy for this actual relationship he has that it is feels very distant from. And then it's I like the fact that like it's presumed that they have sex, right? But you don't see it,
right?
But you do see the betrayal, and it's just sort of like, oh,
I don't think they did. He was not in the mood the whole time.
Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. What do I know about it? Who's to say?
Either way, tapes are gone.
At the very least, they snuggled.
Yeah, they snuggled.
Yeah. Well, but it's intimate. But the point is, it's almost irrelevant if they did or not because it's an intimate on his side.
It was a super intimate moment, and then it got played back in front of everybody.
Yes.
Yep.
Who was there?
And he's betrayed in the most publicly humiliating way possible, in a way to damage him, and at a time when he thought that, oh, okay, I can let down my guard down for a minute.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like that scene in the critically acclaimed film Real Genius with Val Kilmer.
Yes.
Calls his mom, and then they play it back in the lunchroom because all colleges have lunchrooms like that apparently.
Right. Yes. I like that we just have your voice coming through occasionally.
No, it's like the voice of God. I love it. Yeah.
You're like the narrator coming in.
But the other
don't drink that.
The other thing, and then we probably have to wrap up and then go to the if everybody wants to join, we're gonna do an after party stream so that Jason can
after party.
Cool.
So
It's gonna look just like Harry Caul's place. We're just gonna go to a big empty area. There's gonna be like people like spinning around in like go-karts. Something that you're supposed to realize, I think, in this though also, and I didn't pick this up the first time I watched it. It took me, I think, the second time I noticed it. Right before he meets Harrison Ford at the convention, he makes a call and he's talking on the phone. And better call.
Asks for, but he asked for Amy, whatever her last name is, and then it says, "Oh, that number's been disconnected," meaning like she moved out of his apartment, and then it says, and then he goes, "Oh, well, can you find her listing?" And it says she doesn't have a listing. So it's interesting. Presumably, she stopped waiting. When she says, "I'm not waiting for you anymore," she moved
that is
out of
what
the
she
apartment.
said.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a lot easier to do that back then, right?
She was clear about it.
Yeah, it wasn't.
But she was like the happiest and most lush, pissed off girlfriend. Like she was just like, I hate your guts. Who are you even? Let's make out. I'm never calling you again. And then some part of me was like, she's calling him again. Let's be real. But it was like not a real threat. But that's really interesting. Yeah. So it's his only ally, really.
Mm-hmm. J Hutch.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. And additionally, it's amazing that we've talked so much about this movie. We haven't talked about the inciting incident of the movie, which is at what point is it? Like, does it go too far? And it's literally when he's like, "Oh, someone is going to die if I do not take action."
Yeah,
that's what it is. Someone has to personally, he has to be personally culpable for it.
So
right?
what happened, guys? What happened in real, like really happened? What really happened? Robert Duvall died in a car crash. End of story.
Well, I think that they killed him. Like, I don't.
Yeah. I think that was the murder, right? That was the murder that was, but like, it was not like that they were going to be murdered. They were planning the murder.
Whoa.
I'd like to debate.
That was all in his head. Wasn't that all in his head? I felt like the way that the editing was done, but maybe it was just the time. To me, I interpreted the way the editing was done so kind of like just flash of this, flash of that, dream sequence. Is it real? Is it not? I felt like he was dreaming the entire thing. He did die in a car crash. It was all in his goddamn head. That was it. Nobody
got
those
chimes. We need that chime sound effect right now when she said that. Be like,
yeah.
It was all a dream. Thank
you. I'd like to talk through
that Mark tree.
I'd like to talk through this in the after party stream.
Oh man.
You know, wait, are you gonna be on, Francesca?
No, I can join for a little bit.
All right. I have a few clips and stuff that I pulled that I don't, we only had an hour on This Is Revolution, but going through everything, starting with you, Francesca, final thoughts and a plug, if you want to plug anything.
It wasn't real. Follow me on social media at Fanny Fio. Listen to the Bitchuation Room podcast, and if you live in Brooklyn or something, come to see me live.
That's gonna be great.
Yeah,
that show was awesome. I love that. Yeah,
with Sam Cedar and Tiffany Caban and comedian Matt Lieb.
Are you doing any warm-up shows in LA?
Am I doing any live shows in LA?
Warm-up shows in LA.
I do stand-up shows here. I have not yet done a live podcast though. But
are you? It's funny. Here, I'll even come on here for this one because this is upsetting now.
Yeah.
All right, here come God.
That's funny.
Let's go.
That's funny.
So what?
Well,
do you know
God
the
was black.
Behind me, Erica? The album this is behind me? You know this album?
I don't. What is it?
I'm not telling you.
Is that Brittany Murphy?
No. That is not Brittany Murphy.
That's Brittany Murphy.
I feel like I'm failing you, and I'm really sorry.
That's okay. We wanted to do something podcast related in SoCal in April. Are you going to be around?
Hell yeah. Yeah. I'll be here. Have me on. But in the meantime, I'm just kidding.
This is how the stuff gets done in the plugs in the last 5 minutes of a show.
In the last 5 minutes.
Bitchuationroom.com. You can get tickets. Bitchuationroom.com. But of course, I'd be happy to be on. I would love to.
Have you done the Bell House before? Have you performed?
I've not done the Bell House. No. But I've done a theater in Portland for the live show, which was fucking dope. It was so good.
Yeah, I mean.
No, the Alberta Abbey in Portland, Oregon. Which is just
your show with Sam's at the Bell House, right?
Yes, that's it.
You're gonna love it. It's really nice there.
Yo, I'm trying to sell out. I'm scared. I'm trying to sell out. He's having a show there for the Majority Report like 3 weeks later. I'm like, fuck.
The first time I ever met Sam Cedar, I've met him twice, and like he probably doesn't know who the fuck I am. But the first time I met Sam Cedar was at the Bell House. I was working for Michael. And I was filming Michael's first live show that he did ever.
Hell yeah.
And
which went really well, yeah?
Yeah, it went really, really well. But Sam kind of staggered up, and I was in the back, and there's like this back section where you can like kind of people are sitting there, but you can kind of like still have like your equipment there and stuff. So it was next to the sound booth. So I was standing there, and Sam Cedar kind of like staggered up. He was clearly pretty lit, and like. I told the story when he came on Ben's show, so like it's not like a story, but he like put his drink down on the table, like on my equipment table right next to it, and I didn't know who it was, like next to my sound recorder, and I thought it was just some guy, and I was like, listen, and like then I realized it was Sam Cedar. I was like, oh hi, Sam Cedar.
listen, buddy, you've had one too many. It's time to go. That's
who
funny.
must go? No.
Yeah, I hope it'll be fun. It's really fun to be on with you guys again. And Erica,
great to see you again.
Yeah.
And we can keep this going in the on.
Oh yeah, this
is
all. That's right. We're supposed to do final thoughts, right?
Yeah. Well, so Erica, do you have some final thoughts, and then we'll jump
10 seconds, go.
Yet another movie that made me glad I didn't live in the 70s. Because all of the women are just, their lives are horrible.
That's real. That's real.
I'll just leave that there.
Conan?
Yeah, stunning, tense drama about a surveillance expert in the 70s. As mentioned, we never talked about Enemy of the State, but it's supposedly an homage / unofficial sequel.
So
much less universally praised movie, but I think that's it. I love that this movie was so influential in what it did, that when the actual Patriot Act came in and surveillance became part of everyone's daily lives,
we stopped
around that era. Exactly. We stopped it completely. Stopped it dead, folks. Stopped it dead. That like someone remembered, just like as they remembered to homage all these 70s post-punk bands that broke ground, this incredible film for that. Is it political? Is it romantic? I mean, like, yes and yes, but it's also just like the sound of loneliness, like literally the sound of loneliness.
The sound of loneliness.
And
hello, darkness, my old friends.
Incredible work by Gene Hackman here, and
this is way longer than 10 seconds.
Young Harrison.
Wow. Erica stuck to the rules, yo.
We're 40 seconds over. We're supposed to be.
Here's your Oscar shut up music. And on that note, everybody, Conan took too long to finish up.
I was interrupted 5 times, to be clear, but yeah, young Harrison Ford is killer in this thing. That's it.
All right, well, this has been the 6th This is Revolution Movie Night Extravaganza takeover. In about probably in about 10 minutes, I'll say, we'll be on the Movie Night Extravaganza Twitch for tonight only, and then it's gonna move over to Patreon. Gonna leave it open. Movie Night Extravaganza, or twitch.tv/Movie Night Extravaganza. And of course, we're on Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. Anybody that wants to come over there and, hang out in our after party, we got a warehouse. It's going to be fucking lit.
Drive around in it. It's great.
Get a scooter.
Good night, folks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Forrest. This was great. Conan, I love you.
Thank you.
I
love you too, God.
Conan. And, I miss him, and I want to hug him. He is still the nicest man in music and the most helpful man in music. And now he's one of the most sought after commodities in the podcast world.
That's right. Neutron in effect. Still on top.